Next is Dale Fortunio. Oh, by the way, Kevin Sullivan passed away. Did you see that
Yeah,
coming?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, so it just kinda sucks too. Like, I gave him, I actually sent him some GoFundMe a couple weeks ago because
yeah.
I heard it was bad. Like, when you said it, as soon as you said that, I went, What happened to him?
He
Do we
got
know
an
what happened?"
he got a bad infection and he had sepsis and stuff like that, and I I didn't interact with Kevin much. I mostly just went through pause, even though he had,
Right?
his podcast worked with me and everything. But I got mixed reports. One week it was like, "Oh yeah, he's improving," and the other weeks it was like, "It's not looking good," and it went back and forth. And yeah, I was still very surprised to see that when I did.
He's everybody's already seen on Twitter, like, and when this show drops, you'll hear, but, like, bro, the guy was brilliant. That work, just charming storyteller,
Mhm.
very intelligent. He's one of those guys, like, in the wrestling locker room, by no stretch of the imagination, Conan will agree with this. It's not a bunch of dopes and dunces and muscleheads like people think it is. Like, there's a lot of guys that are very bright, right? Kevin was You could tell why Kevin was in charge because he was absolutely one of the smartest guys in the room, like, by far. This guy just had next level intelligence. Cody, you could probably you agree with that, right?
100%. He had that thick Boston accent. He was a big Boston Red Sox fan, so he had many a talks over the Red Sox for sure. I grew up watching him in Miami. He was a real big deal in Miami. Then I watched him in Georgia, and then to actually get hired and work for him, because I met him in a John Arezzi did a tour of Singapore and the Philippines, and I met him there, and I marked out because that's a guy that I watched when I was a little kid, and he never forgot about me when I went to ECW. Woman recommended me to him, and then all the Mexicans that I recommended to him, he helped me convince Eric to bring him in, you know? Brilliant booker. I learned a lot from him, especially how to book heel heat. And, he'll be missed, one of a kind, bro.
He was villainized a lot amongst internet fans, especially when the radicals, the revolution left, Eddie and Benoit and Saturn and whatnot. So because the internet fans love those guys, Kevin became, the bad guy. And a lot of guys buried him in shoots through the years and stuff. I've never seen through the years Kevin ever go out of his way to like speak negatively about anyone, at least publicly on shoot interviews. Like he always was like a bright side kind of guy. He just seemed really tickled to be in the business, very white term, tickled. And he always had good things to say about like almost all talents.
That's appropriate because you're very white.
Here's my point. This is where we lose common sense. You're doing the same thing that they're doing without a safety net. And the thing is, you can land on the floor and you land on the cement.
Bro, I've
People are
always
going to
said,
get hurt.
yeah,
Okay,
I've always said
but
that
what's the
wrestlers,
point?
yeah, yeah,
Let me
yeah.
finish.
Go ahead.
So what was the point of doing that? You're doing an acrobatic stunt in the middle of the match that can cause a serious injury. Okay, if if you do it successfully, congratulations. All right, you've done a successful stunt. Everything. If you don't do it correctly, the what happens to you? Okay, the injury risk that you could possibly end your career, to me, is not worth the risk of what these guys are
All
trying
right.
these days.
Well,
We're pushing things too far. And
okay.
like when I try to say stuff like this, and people aren't saying, you know what, we are pushing things too far, because I'm looking at some of the stuff these guys are doing, and I'm saying, boy, you could really get hurt doing that, and nobody else is repeating that,
Well,
except for a guy like me, and you're trying to argue against me, and I'm talking about a moonsault from the top rope onto the floor where a guy shatters his
right,
ankle on the rail, and you're trying to say that's my point is professional circus performers that practice that day in and day out and everything should be doing that move, not professional wrestlers that do it once a week.
bro,
You know what I'm saying?
I've always said that we are crazy because think about it.
Oh.
Here we are going through real tables, and I've been on movie sets, and they're using props. They don't use real tables. And they got those bags that the stuntman fall on and stuff like that. So in that regard, we've always been crazy. But as far as doing a high risk maneuver, first of all, the guy that's why it's called high risk, and people appreciate it when you hit it. And of course, when you got only one guy that's catching you, it's very risky. But usually the guy that's going to do that move knows that the guy that's going to catch him will catch him. He's not just going to do it with anybody. That's something like a young guy would do. Usually I say if you're going to do something very risky, have two guys there for you. But that's just part of the risk, just like football. You go into football, you can get tackled, get a concussion. It's a high risk. You know, it is that, and that's all there is to it. You know, and how many people actually really, when you look at all the dives that there are, how many people really crash and burn? Not that much.
Wait a second. Konnan said you were all crazy, right? And
Right.
I always give this analogy. This is back in my day. They sent me to the psychiatrist. I walk up to the psychiatrist office. I lay down. And he said, "What seems to be bothering you, Mr. Sullivan?" "Oh, nothing wrong." "Now, why did they send you?" "Well, somebody saw me take a razor blade and cut my forehead." He'd stop and say, "What did you say?" "Well, I took a razor blade and cut my head." "Well, why did you do that?" "Because we were having a return match and green turns into red." He'd say, "Hold on for a second, Mr. Sullivan." He'd hit the button. He'd say, whisper, "Janie, bring in the guys with the white coats. We got to put them away for 30 days. It's always been crazy. We're in a crazy, crazy business. Guys used to hardware themselves. I mean, it's a progression of, in some ways, I think it's safer, and I understand and appreciate where you're coming from, Disco. You're looking out for the guys' bodies. But these guys, you're thinking, and I'm thinking, that what if we did it? God, I couldn't climb up on the top rope, and to get you up there, I have to boost you. You know what I mean? These guys do this every night, and like Konnan said, they usually don't do it with someone that they haven't had catch them before. And I love what Konnan just said was, it's better to have two guys out there catching you. But they have progressed and progressed and progressed. And these guys are much better athletes, too. And, you know, it's hard to be like...
Kevin,
what?
Let me ask you something real quick, because you talk about crazy. I think you were there when this happened. Wasn't it a shoot like when the Steiners are doing that angle, like they actually punched each other to have a black eye or something like that?
Yeah. How crazy is that, huh?
Right.
I mean, so,
Or back when it was Ricky Morton, shaved off his face with sandpaper.
Sandpaper.
To simulate Ric Flair rubbing his face into the concrete floor at the TV studio.
Yeah, this has always been a little crazy. But in some ways, I think these guys that are doing these moves, and I really appreciate that you're concerned about them, but I think they're saying, I get just the same amount of chance of hurting myself as going out to the car tonight and tripping over my bag. These guys do it night in, night out with guys they trust. And I'm going to take your side. If it was what you said, we would have a guy every night at every building go out in a stretcher.
Yeah,
I think they got it down. Go ahead.
But here's the thing: the guys that are doing this, bro, haven't made any money yet. Like you're talking, like these guys, like we made a lot of money, and like every now and then, like you would go in a paper, you would pull out an accurate, you would risk something because we made a lot of money. But these guys are doing on indie shows for $200-$300.
Well, they're about to make a lot of money.
They haven't even made any money yet. Is what I'm saying. Is what I'm saying. So it's like, that's what worries me. Is that we've sent a message to where
to them a guy that was making $200 and is now making $800 or $1,000, that's a lot. And when they do get the WWE or Impact or wherever, because that is the wrestling of the future, there's no stopping it. They're going to be the stars making millions. I can see Ricochet or the Young Bucks or Pentagon or a lot of these guys, Phoenix. They're going to be making millions in the future. They are the future of the business.
All right. Well, I would.
And I'll just say this: there are so many of them that, and they all seem. When I'll be with Kevin Hill, and I'll say, "Jesus Christ, Kevin, aren't they terrific?" And they'll say, "Well, if you think this guy is good, wait till you see the guy coming up behind him." there's a lot of young guys in the business. They're all hustling to make it. Okay, they're only making 200, but I'm going with what Konnan said. 3 years from now, some of those guys that are making 200 a night are going to make 500 to 800,000 a year minimum. So I think that's why they're doing it.
Kevin, we were talking about that yesterday. Disco actually told me, can you believe Undertaker's probably going to get $1 million payoff, right?
Yeah.
You know?
And Konnan, I would not be shocked if the old man gives him $2 million for his last.
Right.
I wouldn't be. That's going away. Right. 20 years here. You know that I would think that Brock and Goldberg are going to get $1 million. There's going to be a lot of money given away, and when you see that kind of money, that changes a lifestyle. And we have young guys in this business that probably can do other things to make money, but there's nothing that I know short of robbing a bank that you can go and get $1 million for 15-minute work.
That's unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Because you were always ahead of your time too. You had a very close eye on ECW, didn't you? Because that's where you got Public Enemy and myself and all that. Did you have a good relationship with Paulie, or were you just taking people, or what? How was that dynamic?
I started Paul in the business. I gave him his first job. He came. He hadn't had any work. I put him in, and then when I was working in Japan, and on the off dates, I'd work for Paulie. Now, Paulie, and rightfully so, he would say, oh, we're the little guys, everybody's after us. I would call Paulie and say, Paulie, there's nothing I can do. They're going to take him from you. They're going to offer the guy. You're paying him $60,000 a year. They're going to offer him $400,000. There's nothing I can do. How long I can prolong it? How long can you get it where you can replace him? If he said 6 weeks, I'd tell Eric, I want to give the guy a right push coming in. I can't do it right now. I got 6 weeks of TV. But I would call Paulie. And I talked to Paulie. I mean, when I went to his first pay-per-view because I was in Japan and flew in that night to Philly, and I went over to his pay-per-view. Plus, when they were working in Florida and we were in Orlando shooting, I went over there to see him. Paulie and I are still good friends. But, that was the thing. For some reason, Eric hated Paul worse than he hated Vince. I don't know what it was. I think he had that run-in with Flair. Do you remember that, Carlos?
No.
He threw a trash can at Flair on his way, one of the fights they had. But so I think, that might have been it. But Paulie was ahead of his time, too.
Yes. Kevin, I grew up in Miami, as you know, watching Steve Kern, watching Dusty, the Briscoes, the Funks. Little did I know that I was watching some of the best wrestling ever, because that's all you saw back then. If you remember, we didn't get WWE back then. It was just Florida Championship Wrestling. What do you make of, is this just like maybe when you grew up, okay, and this is the question, when you grew up watching wrestling, how different was it from the wrestling that you actually saw when you kind of retired from the business? Because I kind of see like the business is kind of going a little bit more to maybe less psychology and more athletically based matches, and obviously some of that is the lucha influence. And was wrestling very different when you were watching it or did it just all of a sudden take a shift, or how do you see the business in that aspect?
How I see it, and you're always on top of it, you see it, Konnan. When you guys came to WCW, a lot of people always say the NWO, you know what I'm saying? That's why we beat them. We beat them before Kevin Scott and X-Pac came, and that's no disrespect.
Yeah.
I grew up wrestling at 234 Broadway in Williamsboro, Brooklyn. I was the only Anglo. It was Johnny Rods, Pedro, Victor Rivera, Ramon Perez, Isaac Rosario, and I never could do what they did, but they taught me some of it. And around the corner, I'd go see Blue Demon and El Santo movies. You know what I'm saying? And you guys changed the business where I think that people talk about, well, it's exposed and all this. It's been exposed since the 50s. You know what I'm saying? There's no longer. And I think people that are coming now are taking it to an art form and applauding like wild. And I think Kevin Gill and I have talked about this. They're coming to see these guys perform as an art form, whether it would be going to a coffee house in the back in the day and seeing Bob Dylan playing in a coffee house, oh, he's going to be a star someday. I actually saw Billy Joel play in Atlanta before he was a star. So, I think that's what it is. The people, the kids are much more athletic today. Okay, maybe they miss some psychology, but they're also life changes in the millennium. This thing we're in, our attention span is very short, and I catch myself going in and watching TV, and I got my iPad in my lap, and I'm looking up two different things. You know what I mean?
Right. It sounds like Konnan's firing up his guitar amp.
What was that?
Yeah.
Konnan, is that you?
Yeah.
What is that?
I don't know. It's some speaker wire or something.
Jesus Christ!
but do you think what I'm saying is kind of on that? Up until you guys, it was going a little bit faster, but it was high spots. It wasn't this wow. There wasn't these wow moments that there are now, and now there's so many wow moments. I think they're on it.
I think this is the thing, is that because the people, this is what the fans are marking out for, and this is what the boys mark out for. They've incorporated, like you said, it's a performance. Okay, right. It's a wrestling match with acrobatic stunts incorporated into the context, into the middle. And I'm not even going to say incorporated as part of the match. I'm going to say it's kind of like in the middle of the match. Because like when we grew up, the wrestling we grew up on is based on the suspension disbelief and is supposed to be predicated on two guys fighting each other. A lot of the acrobatic stunts that they're doing does not resemble things that anybody would do in the context of a fight with each other. Back when the guys used to do
you could say the same thing about every action movie.
Pro wrestling is not an action movie.
But it is. It's a live action movie that you see done one time. You know what I mean?
It's a live simulated fight. The people are supposed to. The concept of the performers is they're supposed to be in the ring fighting each other to beat the other guy. But in the middle of this, somehow they've come up this concept that we have to put an acrobatic stunt in the middle of this fight.
Well, not that they have really to, but in their layout, it makes the crowd go crazy. They love it, and that's how they fight. They're almost like superheroes.
And I think this is where, in a way, you're wrong now, Disco, because it's supposed to be a fight. Says who? It is what it is. You're supposed to be entertained, and it could be a fight. It could be comedy. It could be anything now. That's the beauty of wrestling. And on top of that, wrestling now has genres, which it didn't really have before. It has hardcore wrestling, it has lucha, it has, so it's an incredible time to be in wrestling. And there's never been as many small guys in the business. There's never been as many women in the business. And there's never been as many young guys in the business. And that just makes it. Yeah.
Ever. You're everything you said, Konnan, is so true. There's never been small guys. You know the guys who are the stars today, if they walked into an office years ago, they'd be shown the door. They wouldn't even be shown, okay, let's see what you can do. You know what I mean?
But how tough was it for you? How tough was it for you, Kevin? Because you were a smaller guy, albeit stocky, and you could take care of yourself, and you had a great amateur background. But did you not face some of those prejudices, or no?
Yes, I did. And I'll tell you how I really broke in. This is a funny story. Dutch Mantel's brother got TV in South Carolina. So I was on his TV with Dutch. Dutch and I were roommates. And I guess they liked my look. So they sent a guy down and said, would you like to work for the NWA, right? So this is Ray Gunkel, the guy that had the heart attack by Ox Baker. Only time I met him. I walked in, and I was 210 pounds. He looked at me and said, what do you weigh, 200? I said, 210. He kind of laughed. But they were trying to run me out of the business. They would put me with grizzly old veterans. And it was that old bullshit, not yet, kid, not yet. You know what I mean? And they would grind me down. And, you know, I'd come back and, oh, sorry about that elbow. But because I didn't run away, after a while, one of them took a liking to me, and I kept my mouth shut. You know what I mean? The only thing different, I think, today, a lot of these kids would get really beat up back in the day. You know what I mean? Because some of them, I'm not saying them all, but some of them think they know everything already. But I personally think that years ago in England, the big draws were the middleweights and welterweights, because the heavyweights were going to Germany, the United States, South Africa, you know what I mean? So they had to utilize. I happen to like, it's like going to a circus. If you don't like the clowns coming out of the car, wait, because the acrobats coming out of the car. If you don't wait for the acrobats, you're going to see the high wire act. And then Gunther Gabriel Williams is going to stick his head in the lion's mouth. I personally like that. And Disco, on your behalf, WrestleMania had two guys that were two bulls, and they built it that way. But I also think that the people now are paying to that instant gratification of, holy shit, this is awesome, because like Kev said, this is a video game now. This is supposed to be, at one time, we made it believe that it was a fight to the finish. Now, I think they can enjoy it more. They can enjoy it more and say, Jesus Christ, that guy took his put his balls on the line for us. He didn't have to do that. He did it for us, where back in the day when you did something, you thought the guy was wrestling. I think it's a lot more appreciated because the audience understands it's a work, and the guys in the ring are performing for them.
At a world-class level.
And last thing, and equate the humongous risk factor. Go ahead,
bro. That's my point. The risk factor that these guys doing, that's not work. Working professional wrestling is to try to simulate what they're doing without hurting each other. What these guys doing for the adulation of the fans and for their own personal, however they make themselves feel good about how good they are and having people write good stuff about them, they are risking too many things to achieve what we accomplished without having to do many years ago. Okay, the risk taking is reaching a level that, okay, the fan, we can say the fans like it today, but you know what? Fans liked it way back when we didn't risk a lot of stuff too, and you can't discount that. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree with you. You can't discount it, but everything evolves. I never thought I would see in baseball. Konnan and I are baseball nuts. Konnan, did you ever think you'd see a challenge in baseball?
Right.
Fuck no, right? Everything evolves. And Kevin, you and I were at a show, PCW, where Thatcher and Graves had that match, right?
Yep.
And all you heard was, "This is wrestling, this is wrestling." And the next match was two guys, I can't remember who they were right now, but they
was it Jeff Cobb?
No, it wasn't Jeff. It was, wasn't it the kid that's just been signed from WWE, the young black kid that...
Leo Rush.
Leo Rush. They were in a three-way, right? And people were going nuts. But it was too different. It was like, okay, I had my appetizer, which was a fabulous salad. Now, appetizer, my first appetizer was a fabulous salad. And now I'm going to have some fried conch. It was like everything's different, and they appreciate if it's done well.
Right. And to clarify for Disco, that first match of Thatcher and Graves was all like British style technical wrestling, like probably no one bumped for the first 9 minutes, right?
He came to me and said, "Do you mind if we don't touch the ropes?" They never touched the ropes. Konnan, you know what the high spot for the end of the match was? Thatcher got beat. Graves turns his back. Thatcher looks at him, walks over the ring pretty fast. People get excited, right? Before this, he had offered to shake Thatcher's hand. Thatcher turned away from him. So now Graves turns his back. Thatcher thinks for a minute, comes walking back fast, not running, fast. Graves turns around. Thatcher sticks his hand out. They shake hands, and it blew the roof off. You know what I mean? It's just that they're appreciating what the guys are doing. And Disco, I understand what you're saying is, how far can we take this without someone getting really, really crippled? I heard some kid at Ring of Honor got hurt last night.
Another kid got hurt last night? Jesus.
Yeah.
Here's my point.
Just to Disco to make your kid from NXT who just got called up to WWE programming, Dash Wilder, got hurt and is expected to be out for a few months with a broken jaw, but it's unknown at this time if the jaw was broken in ring or in life, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, bro, I'm just saying that the thing I'm worried, workers can do whatever they want. Okay, and I'm not saying it is an art form. There is a fan base that wants to come and see and be entertained in whatever way that they feel like whatever floats their boat. Okay, my point is the thing that I don't like seeing these days is the lack of common sense with regard to risk and to injury risk that a lot of these guys are doing. Okay, when you're standing on the top rope and you're doing a moonsault, backflipping onto somebody, and the only thing there in between you and the person catching you, between the concrete floor and steel, is one guy catching you, bro. That's a circus stunt without a net. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Go to the circus.
I agree with you.
Okay. Go to that's my point. And here's the thing. I honestly think that if you took Cirque du Soleil and put it on Monday night at 8:00. Up against Raw, you would probably have more people leaving wrestling to go watch Cirque du Soleil because they're doing it better than the wrestlers are. Okay, my whole thing is this: I can't stand it when they see these things, we retweet them on the internet, these moves, and people.
How could you compare Cirque du Soleil to wrestling? I mean, there's no guy on a high tight rope wire or somebody. Bro, the one's a circus and one is wrestling.
No. The acrobatics that they're doing are very similar.
All right, but it's in a circus. It's in the confines of a circus.
Yeah, but bro, it's still doing. You're still doing a stunt.
So even the combined forces of Konnan, KG, and the great Kevin Sullivan cannot even convince Disco for a moment.
No, time out.
Like if you say somebody's diving and he does a better half gainer than Ricochet does, let's all go watch diving. It's not the same thing, bro.
I got a question I want to ask Kevin.
Yeah.
Bro, you were booking when the Hogan turned, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So here's my question, and I want your take on this.
What a stupid question.
No, it's not the question. Okay.
Well, you asked him that.
That's the part of the. Okay, this is the question.
The part that got kazooed.
We're at the position. I used to be in the building. Bro, Hogan was the top babyface. He was getting booed out of the building. Okay, right. We turned him. That led to one of the greatest periods of wrestling. The NWO stuff. The WWE is sitting here with Roman Reigns in the exact same spot. Why are they scared to turn the guy?
You know, I can't understand it because Konnan, he's movie star. You know what I mean? He's from the Rock lineage. He's much more handsome than the Rock. I mean, you go by and you see this kid. He just beat the Undertaker. Couldn't they have done something else with him where he took, I don't know, off the top of my head, took the Undertaker's hat, his boots, and everything and burnt them or something?
Bro, you know what I was thinking, Kevin? You know what I was actually thinking? Remember when he put all his gear in the ring and then he walked onto the ramp and he was he was looking at the entrance with his finger up in the air?
Right.
Right there, I was thinking, this is the Kevin Sullivan in me because I learned how to set heat a lot from you. I thought, bro, how awesome would it be if you would have just come out and speared him, right there in that moment, bro.
Yeah, one thing is you can't get too much heat, and that would have been the thing. Here's what I always said to people. It doesn't matter if a guy's or we don't want to turn him. If he's going to put asses in seats as being a heel, you better turn him because he's going to die on the vine as a baby face, and then you'll never be able to turn him.
Right,
so
right. That's bro. That's the same thing I say. Huh?
Yep. That if they did what you just said, at the end of the night, they'd leave in the building, they wouldn't have been talking about the 10 suplexes. They were saying that fucking Roman Reigns is a piece of shit. He ended Goldberg's last night and made him look like an asshole. They would have got heat.
Yeah.
But it's like I don't understand why they're afraid of it.
Yeah, because the formula's there. We have your top baby face is getting booed out of the building. He's almost a top heel. Just turn the guy. And it's like there is a proven mathematical formula that leads to success because it did with Hulk Hogan. So I just can't understand why they're looking at it and trying to come up with every reason not to,
Kevin, is this plausible? Just sheer arrogance that the fans don't know, and he's going to be a babyface because I say he's going to be a babyface, and is there some of that going on there or no?
I think there's two things. I think you're right there. I think you're right, and I think the second thing is after The Rock, who his movie Fast and Furious opened up to the biggest opening, I think, of all times or close to it. I think that he said no one will ever get over more than the WWE. And I think I created this guy. He's a baby face. I like big baby faces. And you guys better find a way to turn him baby face. I believe you're right, Konnan.
Yeah. Yep. Let me ask you a question. I heard this story, but I never heard the whole thing. I didn't know that when you asked, and Disco just reminded me asking you this question. I didn't know that when you were going to turn Hogan, you actually kind of had to kidnap him for a day or two to make sure nobody got in his ear. How did that go down?
Let me tell you, and you guys were there the night it happened, and We were in Chicago. He was dressed in black, and he had a black crucifix on. And when he walked down the aisle to do an interview with Mean Gene, the building booed him out of the building. And Mean
Especially
Gene,
Chicago.
Mean Gene being an announcer that he is, you can hear the somber mood here. The NWO had just done something. You can hear the somber mood here. They're booing the NWO. Well, we know they're not. So I said to him, I got him in the dressing room. I said, you got to turn heel, and we're going to do it at the Bash of the Beach. We got 3 weeks. Everybody was in his ear. Jimmy Hart, everybody said, no, you can't turn. He finally agreed to it. I lived at the time a mile from the building in Daytona. I made him sleep over my house. His agent was there trying to talk me out of it. I had a 3-bedroom house. I made the agent sleep on the couch. I wouldn't give him the extra bedroom. I was so pissed off at him. I didn't get to the building until the semifinal was on. I wasn't going to let anybody talk him out of it. Yeah, I mean,
was he very nervous?
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you something. And Konnan, I know you're going to agree with me, and Disco will too, but you were closer to Kevin and Scott. If they wanted to, after he turned heel, they could have buried him. They were cool. He wasn't cool. You're cool, Konnan. You're with the music. You're with everything. You know what I mean? They were cool guys. They listened to the right music. Remember the black and white video they did was for 5 minutes, and they're kicking it around?
Yeah.
They brought me over, right? And I'm watching them, and I'm saying, brother, Kevin, I don't know how to tell you this, and I don't want to tell you what to do because you're drawing money, you and Scotty. Can you give him lines to make him hip? Because it's like I'm watching you guys that are really hip. You're like Tupac, and he's like Pat Boone. You got to do something here, you know what I mean? And they laid back and they got his ass over.
They did, bro. You know what I thought was genius? Do you remember the one Disco? Remember the one where it was real popular, the Budweiser commercial with the frogs?
Yeah. Budweiser, yeah, that one, yeah.
And then they did the Outsiders. Do you remember that?
Right. Yeah.
That was hilarious.
That was great.
Yeah.
But they were just two super, super cool, hip guys. Very funny, very charming. Could be a pain in the ass, but
yes.
But when they wanted to play ball, and they were really happy that Hogan joined them, and they were giving him all those cool lines. They were giving Scotty Steiner lines. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, and everybody says, "Oh, they didn't do a job." They all three of them laid down in Charlotte and got beat and pinned at the same time. You know what I mean?
Right. That was one of their favorite things to do.
Yeah. Hey, Kevin put Ray over, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they just wanted, like they should have. And I have the respect for you and Disco too. If you asked them to do a job, you'd ask them why. They'd ask why. If it made sense, no problem, as long as they knew where they were going. And you guys are the same way. As long and me being talented at different times, I want to know where I'm going. Don't just tell me you're going to beat me and we'll figure it out later. Right. That we had and they had, and Konnan, you know this because you probably people don't understand in the business how instrumental Konnan was, Kevin. I know. I know a lot of people do, but a lot of people don't that aren't deeply in the business. He came with Pena, and we had a meeting, and then all of a sudden we had an influx of luchadors that had never been seen before, and this is why I said we were beating Vince early. He was giving them his TV program was thunderous guys that weren't going off their feet to Ray and Hoovy and Konnan and La Paca, and if I'm missing any, I'm missing a bunch, but people go, wow, what's going on? And then I could book Ray against Dean Malenko, or Ray against Benoit, or Ray against anybody, Eddie. They knew how to work both styles, and the people were enthralled with them. So they were a big part, and Konnan was a huge part of it being successful. And that's why they wanted Konnan so bad to be in the NWO.
And any last question, KG or DI?
I'm good.
No, just thank you for your time, Kevin. Where can people check you out on the regular?
Hey, Kevin and I are going. Hey, and congratulations, Konnan. I've heard about the houses you're doing. You know, I'm been working up there in L.A., and it's PCW.com if you want to look at it.
Yeah,
and,
Pacific Coast Wrestling.
Yeah. So if you want to take a look at it, take a look at it.
I've been watching some of that Pacific Coast Wrestling, and they have really great talent. And I already talked to Joe. I don't know if he told you to bring you and him and Fatu, who I think has an incredible look. And
Fatu's amazing.
Yeah, and the girl with the fire and all that, and bring you guys down. Bring you guys down to TJ to do something with some of my boys down here. I think in the summer.
I would love it. Thank you very much, Konnan.
Oh, no, it's going to be great to see you again. Anywhere else that people can find you, Kevin? Are you on social media?
No, I'm out here on an island, and I had so many fake Kevins. I just got rid of them. I don't know what you can do to stop them. I had 3. I was talking to Kevin Gill about this. I had 3 or 4 fake Kevin Sullivan, Facebooks. So I'm working on something now, and I'm going to go on Twitter. So you'll be able to see me as long as you and I can talk, and my boys there. And it was nice to talk to you again, Disco, and it was nice to talk to you again, Kevin. Hopefully we'll see each other all soon, and we'll go out on a big show that Konnan draws down there in Tijuana.
Hell yeah. All right, my brother. Nothing but respect for you, Kevin.
Same here, Konnan. Thank you very much.
All right. Be cool.
You too. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Yo, what's up? I just want to thank you guys for watching this clip. Don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. And join our YouTube membership for hours and hours of exclusive, unedited, uncensored content. And being a member will help you get involved in our upcoming live streams. Thank you for your support. Thank you for riding with us. I know you got a lot of other podcast choices, be it wrestling or other ones. And thank you for picking us. Boom.